Okay, so welcome back. And so now I have this example here. And so again, what we're going to do is we're going to take this graph and we're going to try to figure out what this graph, what function this graph gives us. Okay, just like we did in the last one. Okay, so take a moment and see if you can do this yourself, and then unpause and we'll work it through. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the same thing. So on the board I have two options, right? So here are the two general forms. And so with this example, we could go either way, right? And so we're going to decide what the different parts of it, we're going to analyze this based on the picture. Okay, so first of all, the midline. Well, if you notice that it goes from the range of this this graph goes from 1 to -5. So it has an amplitude of 3, right? Because it has a range of 6. So the amplitude is 3, and the midline, since it goes from 1 to -5, the midline is going to be located at -2. Okay, so let's see. So we've got the midline is y equals -2a, right? The absolute value of a is 3. Okay, so we know a is 3, so let's fill that in. Okay. Now, if we look at the, let's see here. We look at the shift, and obviously it's, if we shift it to the, let's see here. If we shift it to the right, or excuse me, to the left, let's see here. Oh, well, first of all, since the midline is at -2, well, we know it's a vertical shift down 2. So we know that D is -2, so we can fill that in 2. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so now the only thing is trying to figure out what B and C are. Okay, now, if we shift this to the left, then we have something that looks like, we shift it because the maximum point is at 1, 1. And so if we shift that to the left, we'll have something that looks like a cosine function. And let's see here. Yeah, so with a horizontal shift, so there'd be a horizontal shift to the right then of 1. Okay. Now, if we look at the period, now the period goes from, if you look at this from x equals 1, goes from x equals 1 to a maximum, and then reaches the maximum again at 7. So we can see that the period is 6, right? So we know the period is 6, and we know that it has to have this formula, right? It has to equal 2 pi over b, the absolute value of b. Okay, so that tells me if I solve for this for b, that means the absolute value of b equals 2 pi over 6, which equals pi over 3. Okay, so we have b, right? Okay, so b has to be pi over 3, so that's good. We got that in there. So far so good. So not bad. Pi over 3. Okay. Now the only thing is the horizontal shift. Okay, like I said, we could shift it to the, it looks like it could be a shift to the left. So it could be a cosine shifted to the right. It could be a negative cosine shifted to the left, or a sine shifted to the right, or to the left, or a negative sine shifted to the right. So it could be one of those. Okay. So, but the cosine shifts are easier to work with than the sine shifts in this case. Because they involve integer values, right? So if you look at the graph, it definitely, you can shift it over one whole number and be fine with the cosine. Otherwise, it looks like you're going to have a shift of a fraction. It's not going to be a whole number. So I would just go with the cosine. Let's see. Now let's see. Okay, so now, so it'd be minus, so minus 1. Okay, and so since we have, okay, so if we deal with the 1, then we know it's a horizontal shift, but since we've got this here, okay, so here's the thing, since it's a 1 unit shift to the right, which means this is going to be minus. Okay, but here's the thing, it's one shift, but we've got this here. And so what I'm going to do is this is going to have to be pi over 3 because we've got the stretch going on here. So remember, if you write this as pi over 3, right? Then you've got to have the shift in here. So this would actually give us the x minus 1 like that. So that's what I'm thinking. So again, when you've got something here, you've got to make sure that it's got to work out and give you what's on the shift. So here's our B, here's our B, and then in here, here's our horizontal shift, and there's the -1. Okay, and so that's why this is correct. Okay. Okay, so this we're not going to do because, again, it's easier in this case to deal with cosine. Now, there is another way because you could deal with a reflection, right? The other way is if you move it to the left, okay? So you'd move it to the left 2 units, but then you'd have to invert it by multiplying by 9, or by -1. So the other way of doing this one would be to write it this way. -3, so the negative sign, cosine, and now what I'm going to do is, again, I've got a shift, it's a shift to the left 2 units. Okay, so now what I have to do is, it's going to be, oops, let me do it this way. So pi over 3, and it's going to be x plus 2, right? So what does it give me? So now the other one, so it's either going to be this one, or it would be -3 cosine, and then this would be pi over 3 times x plus 2 pi over 3 minus 2. And so that would be the other one. Okay, because again, I start with what I have, right? It's got to have x minus 1 or x plus 2 in this case, but then my b has to be here. Okay, and then when I distribute, then I get my final result. Okay, have a great day.